Here's something that's going to sound almost offensive at first. The men women find most fascinating aren't the ones trying hardest to impress them. In fact, it's usually the opposite. While most guys are out here rehearsing lines, chasing validation, and reacting to every little shift in her tone, like it's a five-alarm fire, the men who actually hold a woman's attention are doing something almost boringly simple. Nothing. No performance, no scrambling, just calm, steady, unreadable presence. And that single contradiction is exactly what's about to be unpacked. Most men have been sold a lie about what makes them intriguing, and it's costing them more than they realize. They think mystery has to be manufactured, vague texts, disappearing acts, calculated silence. When in reality, becoming unreadable to women is easier than you think, and it has almost nothing to do with hiding anything at all. It has everything to do with what's happening internally, long before a single word gets said out loud. So here's the uncomfortable truth this video is going to sit with. If a woman can predict every single one of your reactions, she's already lost interest before she's even aware of it. That's not a harsh judgment. That's just how attraction psychology works. And the good news buried inside that discomfort is this. The fix isn't complicated, expensive, or reserved for naturally mysterious men. It's a skill, one that gets built piece by piece, starting right now. Drop a comment below with the one thing you personally struggle with most: reacting too fast, over-explaining, needing her approval before you even realize you're chasing it. This one might hit closer to home than expected. So if it does, hit like and subscribe, because what's coming next builds directly on everything about to be covered. Most men think being hard to read means holding something back, but that's not it at all. The truth is simpler and a lot more uncomfortable. Being easy to read isn't about oversharing, it's about reacting instantly and visibly to everything she does. A raised eyebrow, a teasing comment, a slight pause in her voice. And there he goes, adjusting his posture, laughing too fast, explaining himself before anyone even asked. That's not personality, that's a nervous system on display for anyone paying attention to female body language signals. And she is paying attention, whether she admits it or not. Here's the part nobody tells you. Anxious men telegraph every emotion because their internal state is loud and unmanaged. It's not a character flaw, it's just untrained wiring. Think of it like a smoke alarm that goes off every time someone toasts bread. Technically it's working, but it's completely miscalibrated. That's what a nervous reaction looks like to a woman who's fluent in reading body language. She doesn't need him to say, "I like you" out loud. His shoulders already confessed it 3 sentences ago. This is the uncomfortable part of attraction psychology that most guys skip past because it's easier to blame bad luck than to look at their own reactions. Now picture the opposite. A calm man is unreadable because there's nothing urgent leaking out. A nervous man is an open book because everything shows on the surface. It's almost unfair how simple this is once you see it. Two men can hear the exact same comment from a woman. Something sharp, something testing. And one of them will flinch like it landed a punch, while the other barely blinks. Guess which one she keeps thinking about on the drive home? This isn't about talent. It's about training the nervous system the same way you train a muscle, one rep at a time. A good place to start, if this feels foreign, is something as unglamorous as breath control. Box breathing, 4 seconds in, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds out. Sounds almost too simple to matter, but it's one of the fastest ways to lower that internal noise before it leaks onto your face. Pair that with something like Epictetus' Enchiridion, a short, blunt little book about not handing your emotional state over to outside events. It's ancient, but it reads like it was written for a guy standing at a bar trying not to look rattled. Small tools like these are what separate performing calm from actually having it. And women's body language reading skills are sharp enough to spot the difference every single time. So here's the mentor's confession, if you'll allow it. The calmest guy in almost every room isn't naturally fearless. He's just decided, somewhere along the way, that his face doesn't owe anyone a play-by-play of what's happening inside him. That's not coldness. That's containment. And containment, it turns out, is the first ingredient in dating advice for men that actually works instead of just sounding good in a video. But calm on its own isn't the whole story, because there's a difference between staying steady and staying steady while she's actively testing you, which is a whole different skill entirely. Every woman has a private radar for testing men, even if she'd never call it that out loud. She'll tease, poke, throw out a comment just sharp enough to see what happens next. And when she teases, tests, or watches for a reaction, staying steady removes the reaction she's looking for. It's not a cruel game. It's closer to curiosity, the same instinct that makes a kid press a button just to see what it does. The difference is, this button is emotional, and most men press right back with a full-blown light show. Here's where it gets costly. Reacting instantly to every comment or shift in tone hands her the whole script before the scene even starts. She says something slightly provocative, he over-explains, gets defensive, or laughs too eagerly to prove he's cool with it. And just like that, there's nothing left to discover. It's like handing someone the last page of a mystery novel in chapter 1. There's no more reason to keep reading. This is one of those signs of attraction psychology rarely gets right in mainstream dating advice. Her interest often depends on how much of the story is still unwritten. Contrast that with the man who doesn't react on cue becomes impossible to fully map out. She'll say the same kind of comment to him, expecting the familiar flinch or scramble, and it just doesn't come. Not because he's ignoring her, but because he's not performing for the test. There's a pause instead, maybe a small smile, maybe a redirect. And that gap, that missing reaction, is where her brain starts working overtime, trying to fill in what he's really thinking. If this feels abstract, think of it in physical terms for a second. The way a poker player learns to control breathing and posture so the cards don't show on the face. It's the same discipline, just applied socially instead of at a table. A good practical drill. Next time someone teases or tests you, count to 2 full seconds before responding, in real time. It feels like an eternity in your head and completely natural to everyone watching. Books like Verbal Judo by George Thompson are underrated resources here. Built for de-escalation and calm response under pressure, but the same skill applies perfectly to reading women and staying composed when she's clearly fishing for a reaction. This is where dating advice for men usually stops short, treating confidence like a costume you put on for the night. But emotional control isn't a costume. It's closer to a muscle memory you build test by test, comment by comment, until steady is just who you are instead of something you're trying to prove. And once that steadiness becomes real instead of performed, something else starts happening. She stops being able to tell if you're doing it on purpose at all. There's a trap a lot of men fall into once they hear "be unreadable." They start performing mystery instead of actually having it. Suddenly they're dodging simple questions, being vague on purpose, disappearing from conversations just to seem intriguing. But there's a real difference between performing mystery, which is calculated and try hard, and genuine self-containment, which is grounded and unforced. One takes effort every single second. The other just exists quietly without anyone managing it. Here's the part that trips people up. Authenticity makes a man harder to read than any deliberate act of secrecy ever could. That sounds almost backwards at first. How can just being yourself be harder to figure out than actually hiding something? But think about it like a locked door versus a room with no light switch. A locked door announces, "There's something here I'm keeping from you," which practically begs to be picked apart. A dark room with nothing hidden just is what it is. There's no secret to extract because nothing's being withheld in the first place. And reading women's body language becomes far less useful when there's no performance to decode. This is where being at ease with yourself means you're not managing what she sees, which makes you naturally opaque. Not opaque like a wall, opaque like calm water where you can't quite see the bottom, not because something's murky, but because there's simply no urgency stirring things up. A man like this doesn't need to filter his words for effect or soften his opinions for approval. He just says the thing, means the thing, and moves on. That kind of ease is disarming in a way scripted mystery never manages to be. A useful exercise here. Next time you're asked a personal question, answer it plainly, without over-explaining or adding a joke to soften it. No deflecting, no performance, just a direct answer and silence after it. It feels exposed at first, almost too simple, but it's remarkably effective. Try it in low-stakes conversations before using it somewhere that matters. Reading something like Marcus Aurelius's Meditations reinforces the same idea from a different angle. A man secure in his own judgment rarely needs the audience's validation to know he's fine. That kind of quiet self-reference is exactly what reads as unreadable from the outside, even though nothing is technically being hidden. So the real lesson buried in all this attraction psychology is uncomfortable for men chasing shortcuts. You can't fake your way into being unreadable, because faking it is loud in its own way. The moment it stops being effort and starts being who you actually are, something else shifts too. She stops trying to catch you in an act and starts trying to catch you off guard instead, which is a very different kind of attention entirely. Most people assume unpredictability means being erratic, saying random things, keeping someone guessing through chaos. But that's not where it actually lives. It lives in something much quieter. Not instantly confirming or denying what she's fishing for creates real uncertainty. She'll drop a comment designed to get a yes or no, a reaction she can file away and use to finish her read on you. And the moment that answer doesn't arrive on schedule, something shifts in how she's processing the whole interaction. This is the part that gets misunderstood the most, so it's worth being direct about it. This isn't about being cold or withholding, it's about not handing over your internal state on demand. There's a big difference between a man who's warm but private and a man who's just shut down. One creates intrigue, the other creates distance. Think of it like a store window at night. The lights are on, you can see there's life inside, but you can't make out every detail from the sidewalk. That's not coldness. That's just a boundary between public and private, and it's one most men give away too easily under a little social pressure. Here's where it gets interesting, though. She starts studying you because she genuinely can't finish the sentence in her head. Women's body language and behavior around men they're trying to read often gives this away before words do. A longer glance, a repeated question rephrased slightly differently, testing from a new angle. That's not annoyance. That's her brain running a background process it can't quite close out, and few things hold attention like an unfinished thought. A practical way to build this. When someone asks a loaded or testing question, try answering with a genuine question back instead of a direct confirmation, not deflecting, just redirecting the moment back into open space. Something like, "What made you ask that?" said with real curiosity, not defensiveness. It keeps the exchange alive without resolving it too early. This is a subtle skill covered well in books on reading body language and social calibration, like Joe Navarro's What Everybody is Saying, not because it's about romance specifically, but because it trains the eye and the instinct to notice these tiny signals in real time, both hers and your own. The deeper principle underneath all of this dating advice for men is uncomfortable but freeing. You don't owe anyone instant access to what's going on inside you, and withholding that isn't manipulation, it's just self-respect with good timing. Once that becomes natural instead of strategic, there's a bigger question worth asking. What's actually driving a man who doesn't need her reaction to feel steady in the first place? There's a certain kind of man who's hard to read, not because he's guarded, but because his attention simply isn't centered on being read in the first place. A man with direction has an internal world that isn't centered on her reactions, which she can't access or predict. He's thinking about a project due Thursday, a goal he's chasing, a version of himself he's building, and she's a welcome part of his life, not the operating system running it. That single shift changes everything about how a woman experiences attraction to psychology in real time, because there's simply less of him available to decode. This matters because his responses come from his own compass, not from trying to manage her perception. Picture two men receiving the exact same lukewarm text back from a woman they're interested in. One spirals internally, rereads it 4 times, adjusts his next message to fix whatever went wrong. The other barely registers it because he's mid-workout, mid-project, mid-something that actually matters to him. Neither man is colder than the other, but only one of them is legible, because only one of them is anchored to her response as the main event. This kind of purpose communicates, you don't have the full picture without ever saying it. And that's the part worth sitting with. Nothing needs to be announced or performed here. A woman doesn't need to be told a man has direction. She reads it in the pacing of his replies, the way he doesn't rearrange his week around uncertainty, the calm with which he holds his own priorities. It's one of the more overlooked signs of attraction that never makes it into surface-level dating advice, because it isn't flashy, it's just structural. If this feels distant from where you're starting, the fix isn't complicated, just consistent. Pick one pursuit and give it real hours, not vague intentions. Something like training for a specific lift goal at the gym, learning a language on a set schedule, or working through a real curriculum like a Coursera course in a field you actually care about. The goal isn't to seem busy for her benefit. That's just performance again. It's to genuinely have a center of gravity that exists independent of any woman's attention. Cal Newport's deep work is a solid companion here, not for romance, but for rebuilding the kind of focus that makes a man's world feel real instead of borrowed. Here's the mentor's honest note on this one. Most men chase her attention as the goal, when it should be a byproduct of a life that's already moving somewhere. Once that direction becomes real instead of aspirational, one more piece falls into place. Because purpose alone can tip into something cold if it isn't paired with a very specific kind of warmth. Here's where a lot of men take this whole idea too far and shoot themselves in the foot. Too closed off reads as cold or checked out. Too transparent reads as needy or predictable. And somehow, both mistakes leave a woman with the exact same feeling. Nothing left to explore. One man overshares every emotion the second it surfaces. The other locks everything down so tight he might as well not be in the room. Neither one is intriguing. One's an open book, the other's a closed door with a "do not disturb" sign, and neither invites anyone to stay. The real answer lives in a much narrower lane than most guys expect. The balance. Steady, warm presence plus internal privacy equals intriguing, not aloof. Warmth is what makes someone want to lean in. Privacy is what keeps them curious once they do. Picture a fireplace behind glass. You can feel the warmth, you're drawn toward it, but you're not reaching straight into the flame. That's the exact temperature a man wants to give off. Present, engaged, clearly capable of connection, but never fully handed over on the first ask. This is the rare middle ground most men never find, mostly because the culture only teaches two options. Be an open book to prove you're emotionally available, or shut down completely to protect yourself. Nobody talks about the third lane, the one where a man can laugh genuinely, listen closely, make a woman feel completely seen in the moment, and still walk away from the conversation without having overexposed a single thing about himself. That contradiction, warm but private, is exactly what keeps women's body language leaning in rather than pulling back. A simple way to practice this. In your next few interactions, aim to make the other person feel fully heard. Real eye contact, real reactions, real presence, without narrating your own inner world in return. Ask questions, reflect what she says, laugh where it's genuine. Then notice how little you actually needed to reveal about yourself to make the moment feel good for both people. That gap between engagement and exposure is the whole skill. It's less about withholding and more about generosity that doesn't require self-abandonment. And that's really the through line running under every single piece of this. Unreadability was never about secrecy, distance, or playing games. It's what naturally happens when a man is calm instead of anxious, steady instead of reactive, genuine instead of performed, private instead of withholding, purposeful instead of adrift, and warm enough the whole time that none of it ever feels cold. So here's the real question worth sitting with after everything covered today. How many times has a reaction been handed over for free? The instant flinch, the over-explanation, the need to fix a moment that didn't actually need fixing? because every one of those moments was a page of the story given away before it needed to be. Unreadability was never about tricks or games. It was calm instead of anxious, steady instead of reactive, warm instead of withholding, and purposeful enough that her reaction stopped being the center of gravity altogether. Nobody becomes this overnight, and that's honestly the good part. This isn't about faking calm tomorrow morning and expecting a different result by lunch. It's about picking one thing from everything just covered. The 2-second pause before reacting. The plain answer instead of the over-explained one. The one pursuit that finally gets real hours instead of vague intentions. And actually building it one interaction at a time, starting with the next conversation that comes along. So which one is it going to be? Which one of these 6 ideas hit the hardest? And more importantly, which one is actually getting practice this week instead of just nodded along to? Drop that answer in the comments, because saying it out loud, even just typing it, is the first step toward actually becoming it. If any part of this changed the way self-perception works even slightly, subscribe and turn on notifications, because this is exactly the kind of work that gets built one video at a time, one shift at a time, one calmer version of yourself at a time.